Hello and good morning, friends, and welcome to the Backyard Garden. Again, every Sunday morning you'll find me here on Aislynn.Campbell Live. Well, I suppose every once in a while you might find Joe Hilliard, but that's a very rare circumstance. But you will find me Sunday mornings in the backyard garden or in some sort of garden that I'm reaching out to, looking around, and wanting to show you guys what I'm learning from that particular garden. So last week, I took the time to talk about seed starting, how I start seeds, the methods that I use, and then I talked about the different companies that I order seeds from. And over the last week, I've spent time ordering those seeds, getting those seeds coming towards me, and so I've got my first start of seeds that are headed my direction for spring planting. Now, all of that being said, I wanted to do kind of a part 2 to that, which is what am I actually still planting from my fall, winter garden stuff? What am I doing in terms of planting and preparing for the spring garden? What's happening now in the transition period that we're in? And yes, if you live in Zone 9B or you live in South Texas, then you are dealing with what would be considered a transition period where we're getting ready again for the next massive planting season. And we are still planting right now, but that kind of slows down and starts to shift into a different type of planting. Before I go to that, I want to talk very quickly about my business. It's just Aislynn, and some of the work that I'm going to be doing, the garden lifestyle coaching opportunities that are going to be available for you. And my official website's going to be launching next week, where you will have the ability within a shop to tap into some of the other paid for educational gardening opportunities and coaching and consultations and things like that as well. Now, a couple of things I want to talk about because we're getting really close to those dates coming up. One of those is the intuitive gardening workshop, 6-week workshop that I will be doing, 6-week masterclass that I will be doing. And that will kick off on January the 2nd with actual free hour-long mastermind online where I will be explaining to you what intuitive gardening means and the It's Just Aislynn way. And I hope that you guys are interested in that, because if you are, please drop a yes in the comments, and I will be sure to drop a link to that so that you can sign up and make sure I know that you're interested in participating in that free mastermind, and I get you access to getting into that live that I'm going to be doing, where I'm going to be answering lots of questions and talking about the upcoming intuitive gardening 6-week mastermind. That will actually start on the following Monday at 3 p.m. Central Standard Time. And it is available right now to purchase if you're ready to go ahead and you're like, I know Aislynn is doing amazing work and I absolutely want to be on a 6-week online live with her with this, lots of other opportunities, including a private group, workbook activities, and a Q&A sessions where it will do just back and forth answering questions with those folks that have signed up to take the masterclass. The cost of that class is going to be $333, and it is going to be packed full of beautiful, beautiful information. So I want to talk to you guys more about that in the future. And then I also want to talk to you about 2 other things that are going to be at the top of January, or January, February. And those are going to be 2 different club programs that I'm starting, club memberships. One of them is a hands-on learning garden club, and that will include hands-on workshops. It will include a private group, workshop activities, all kinds of things like that. So that's for my local folks. The online stuff, that's going to go out to anyone. Those are not Zone 9B specific information. That is literally just how I garden, the way I garden, and how it can help you be more successful in any garden anywhere in the world that you're looking to garden at. The hands-on workshop is really for my more local folks that are able to drive in and participate in the different gardening workshops that I'm going to be doing. We're going to be doing some field trips in that club. It's a year-long, month-to-month situation. If you're interested in that, let me know. I'm going to be getting that up for availability to tap into as well. And the third one that will be coming at us in February is going to be a cooking club membership. And that's really a seed to plate type of workshop programming going on. It will be on the farm. We will be using analyzing truly the things that we grow, talking about how we grow them, talking about the best timing to harvest. Let's say eggplant. We've been talking about eggplant. What's going on? I'm confused because Joe's giving me signals in the background that I don't understand. So we will be talking about, let's say we're talking about eggplant, like at the start of the show. And what are we going to do? How are we going to have the best eggplant? How are we going to harvest that eggplant? What do we do about an ugly eggplant, right? What do we do about those things? And then how are some different ways to cook them when all of a sudden you realize you've got more eggplant than you know what to do with? That's what this kitchen garden cooking club is going to be about, and more of that information is going to be coming up on my website that will be officially launching this coming up week. Okay, now let's get back to the garden conversation, the gardening talk. So, things I want you to know about planting right now. I am continuing to plant in the ground cabbage, cauliflower, broccoli from my transplant sizes. So some of the things you need to be aware of when you purchase a transplant, or you have seeded early and you're to the point of having nice sized transplants, you need to look back at the variety of that particular cabbage, cauliflower, broccoli, or whatever it is, and find out whether or not what the growing dates on it are, because that will give you an idea of how much longer it's going to be worth your time to A, purchase transplants of that particular variety, or B, even consider putting it in the ground if you don't really want to use that space for that anymore because you're preparing for your spring gardens. So if you're looking at something like a storage cabbage, and I do have those, you've got another couple of weeks to plant that, and then after that it's a waste of time and space because it's not going to make the type of cabbage that you're looking for. And the reason is because we're getting into that point in time where if you've still got 100-day cabbages and 100-day broccoli, cauliflower, things like that, our weather's just going to simply be too warm at that point for that type of flowering vegetable. So you need to look at the dates and think about 3 months out. In 3 months out, January, February, March. At the end of March, we begin seeing real spring and summer weather. We begin seeing even potentially some summer weather already down here. Okay? So you've got till basically the end of April to potentially deal with all of your flowers are going to start opening. And so if you're not wanting your broccoli to flower before it actually makes a nice head, or your cabbage to flower before it makes a nice head, you don't want to put those in too late or waste your time and space with those particular plants. So you're looking at the ones you're wanting to get, the broccoli, cauliflower, cabbage of the 50-day, 60-day, 90-day, and then be done with it. That's what we're looking at as it relates to that. Now, things that you can continue to go ahead and transplant in, and even for that matter, you can continue to direct sow into the ground or sow into little starts that you then put into the ground. You're talking about your lettuce, your kale, any of the stuff that's just the leaf that you're not looking for the head to be created. Your mustard greens, all of your radishes are perfectly acceptable to continue keep planting. You can even keep planting any of your root vegetables like your carrots, your beets, some of that stuff you can continue, spinach, some of that stuff you can continue to keep planting for a solid month, seeding directly in. So I'm seeding those types of things. Now, let's begin to shift over to, yes, Joe's got questions.
No, I don't, Lisa's watching and has a question. Is that an eggplant in your pocket, or are you just happy to see me?
Right, exactly.
But I do have a question, and I'm sure that you could actually talk for 30 minutes on this, so maybe if it's an abbreviated answer, if it's available. Down here in South Texas, we remember fondly snow on the ground Christmas Day. Mm-hmm. So there it is, 32 degrees. But this year, I mean, this is a gorgeous day. We could go to the beach today.
Right.
So how do you year to year alter what your plans are in this kind of weather, which is from year to year remarkably different?
The quickest answer to that is that you follow experienced gardeners, and as you get more experience, you will begin to be able to tell what you can and can't do and how you can do things. And you'll also begin to understand that snow doesn't mean freeze necessarily. And so you begin to learn things about that. You also begin to understand what you can do in terms of germinating seeds. Now, the other seeds, as you're beginning to spring plant.
Sandy's answering the question. I guess you plant and pray?
You plant and pray. Yeah, that's a little bit of it. Well, one of the main things you do is some of this permaculture gardening that I've been talking about, where you keep your microclimates, where you're able to manage the warmth and cold of your particular plants. And the thing about it is that when you're talking about for the most part, Joe, and have you been paying attention even at all? I'm just kidding.
My questions are rhetorical.
The peppers, the tomatoes, the eggplants, the beans, the squash, you're kind of already done with putting that stuff in the ground anyways. And the fact of the matter is, for the most part, outside of being right here on the bay where we're really close to the water and we've got these really small backyard warm gardens, eggplants are doing okay. We've kept them really nicely mulched. The tomatoes are not looking super great. They're certainly not looking great in the more arid areas out towards this region. So you're not really paying attention to that kind of stuff right now anyways. The freeze, the wind, the frost, all that stuff is not going to harm your broccoli, cauliflower, cabbage, the things you're planting right now, your lettuce, your spinach, the things you're really aware of now. But as you're preparing for spring and you're planting your spring seeds, that's the stuff you need to begin to pay attention to, the temperatures and the weather and things like that. So I've got tomato plants that are in pots that I want to keep happy, so that as soon as February 14th, or we're kind of watching to see what we're dealing with in terms of frost, snaps, freezes, what's going to be happening in February. It might have to be a little bit later than that, but I don't expect that this year. I want those tomato plants, eggplants, pepper plants that are in pots right now to be ready to go in the ground. So if I had a situation where I saw a scare of a freeze or snap or anything like that, I would take those potted plants, move them inside. That's it. Or cover them with a nice cloth. Make sure things are watered in your beds and grounds, things we've talked about in the past. Make sure you're mulching, doing all of those kinds of things. Now, as it relates to planting and preparing for spring, I've said this 3 or 4 times now, I keep getting off track, but you're going to want to begin starting those seeds really immediately. As your seeds come in that you've ordered, and as you order your seeds and more seeds start to come in, you're going to want to start planting seeds, eggplants, pepper plants. It's because it takes those things a long time to really get strong enough to put into the ground. And you want to be able to put them into the ground in about 2 months, right? So you want to make sure that they're germinating at the right temperature. And some things that you can do is look at, one of the companies I gave you last week was Johnny Select Seeds. They actually will give you a germinating temperature. So if you look at the germinating temperature on a lot of the plants and seeds you're ordering, then you'll see that a germination rate might be at 86 degrees. Well, if you think about it, are we staying at a solid 86 degrees for long enough days to germinate a tomato plant outside? We may not be. We may be. So what I tend to do is keep an eye on what the temperatures are, make sure I've got those plants in a direct sun spot that's always going to get direct sun from the moment the sun comes up to the moment the sun comes down. It's the warmest part of my yard or whatever, or I'll go ahead and plant those inside until they germinate, maybe underneath some warming lights, things like that. You can even put a heat mat underneath them that keeps them a little bit warmer, because all you're wanting is 86, just enough days to get that seed, the eggplant, the pepper, the tomato, to germinate. As soon as they germinate, take them outside. They'll be fine. Get them germinated, get them up, get them outside into the sun and the warmth, and then they'll take off and they'll be just fine. The other things that you're going to start paying attention to seeding is your squash, especially your winter squash, and maybe even some melons if that's a high priority for you in your spring planting season. But we're not going to be putting those in the ground until late February or even March. So you have time, you have about 4 more weeks before you need to start germinating those particular seeds. But right now is a good time to germinate the tomatoes, the eggplants, and the peppers as you begin preparing for your spring gardens. Can you imagine that we're already almost there? I can't even imagine it. It's so crazy. So, okay, that's really all I have for today as it relates to seed starting and transplanting. Oh, I also want to say continue to plant your sugar snap peas in the ground. Continue to plant your onions in the ground. And if you're planning on planting any seed potatoes, January is a good time to start planting your seed potatoes in the ground so that you can have all of those little beautiful potatoes. We may talk about some potato growing in the future. I actually don't have any yet plans. I don't have any great spots to do it yet, but I've got some ideas on some different ways you could do it in the backyard, and I can help you out with some of that as well. One last thing I want to talk about before we hang up for today, hang up like we're on the phone, you get it, like old school, is that I do actually have some transplants that are ready to go, even some of those 100-day ones that you may want or like. If you're interested in purchasing any of the transplants that I have available, please just send me a DM, and then I will send you some photos and the price and the plant that I have and about how long, when I think it'll be ready to harvest, so I can help you out with that. This is just me, consistently planting so many seeds throughout the year and just making sure that I have plenty of plants for all of my garden spaces, but also that I have some overflow of abundance. Now, I mentioned overflow of abundance. If you don't know it already, I have a Facebook group that is an online marketplace where I sell produce, I sell artisan crafted foods, I sell plants, vegetable plants, and things like that. So if you're interested in getting involved in that group, Aislynn's Overflow of Abundance, then please just give me a message, drop some yeses down in the comments down there, and I'll make sure to send you the link so that you can join that group. And of course, last but very not least, we are going to be launching dinner table talks tomorrow morning, and we'll be talking about our beautiful Christmas weekend and all of the beautiful things we had for Christmas, and just the fun times and the family and our kids in town and all of that goodness. And of course, you also know you can't imagine any dinner table talks is going to be without the Joe and Aislynn Silly Nonsense show. All right, I'll see you all very soon. Love you. Have a great week.